So welcome to CISO Talks. Today I'm joined by Tinesh. Tinesh runs Decipher Cyber. They are a CISO consultancy. Tinesh, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You recently wrote an article on LinkedIn where you were talking about this state of confusion that you're regularly finding CISOs in. Tell me a bit more about that. What do you mean?
So we wrote that article because what we're seeing is a massive influx of cybersecurity technologies entering the UK market, as well as globally. All of these technologies are bringing really well-meaning solutions, but trying to find your voice and trying to be heard in a very crowded market is, well, it's not impossible, right? You've got well-informed CISOs, you've got program directors, you've got IT managers and IT directors, heads of procurement, all now being pulled in to go and find these technologies and find the right ones for their organizations. The challenge is, where do you find them? How do you know they're going to be best fit for your company and your strategy, which causes an immense amount of noise and headache? How do you even procure some of these technologies, because they all come to the market in different ways, right?
And how do you cut through the noise? I mean, that point you make there is a huge issue. Is how do you actually determine what's real and what's just marketing?
Yeah, we talk to a lot of CISOs, and actually, if I can pull back on that just a second, it also depends on the level of experience that CISO or practitioner has, right? So if they are a technical CISO or technical director of sorts, they'll kind of have a high level understanding of what that technology does, where it sits and how it can help. But then you've also got where they're situated. So they could be in the UK or Europe, which is a mature market, as opposed to the emerging markets like India, like the Kingdom, the UAE, Australia to some degree, the African countries, right? Thirdly, are those technologies available in their countries, right? That's a challenge. How would you even find that? Where do you go about doing this, right? When there's bigger questions to be asked. So, and then you've got finally, what their strategy and goal, and then that coupled with the budget question is. So if you start there first and say, actually, where do we sit on that sliding scale, and are we experienced? Do we have all of those things lined up? Then actually, when they come out to the market, they'll have half a chance. But if you don't have any of those, and then you are tasked with going out there because you've had a breach, for example, and you've been tasked to go and find a technology or a solution or a provider of some sort to help you with that end goal, that's a bit of an ask, right? And it's a very difficult task for a lot of people.
How much do you think you can know about this technology until you really start getting into it and you start actually, engaging with the vendor? How much can you really figure out about them, do you think, in advance at the moment?
I think you can, well, certainly from my experience, look, you can go to research houses. That's the obvious one. But there's a
You
cost.
used to work at Gartner, right?
Yeah, I'm ex-Gartner, so Gartner's almost seen like Marmite, right? However, Gartner, Forrester, IDC, there's a whole bunch of them. You can go and do your research and you'll get a view on technologies and where they sit, right? You can network and ask your peers, which is always a good place to start, especially if you're a practitioner, you're a CISO. So you're hopefully surrounded by a network who have had experience within that technology. So you've got that research. You can go out to the vendors themselves, and I talk about that in my article, right? Look, I'm a fan of talking to vendors. I'm from the vendor community myself. And actually, at the end of that conversation, one thing you will know is what you don't want, right?
It's true. Do you not find the challenge though when you're engaging with vendors, quite often the first point of call for these CISOs is the salespeople, and that's the last person that most CISOs want to talk to?
Right, and I agree 100%, right? And I think the challenge there is, you can call vendors, they do bring amazing, well-meaning solutions. What you want to do very early on is engage in and with the technical pre-sales guys if you can, right? And that hopefully should circumvent, or certainly keep the sales guy away. But that said, right, I think it's good to just set the scene right from the beginning. We're just exploring the market. If you talk to the vendors, they want to talk to you, right? Especially with new vendors, coming to the market. They want to understand your challenges and your problems. They want to make sure that their solutions are correct for your industry, let alone your company, right? So they want to learn as well, right? And there's lots of them. So I think if we're all a little bit more transparent and we right from the beginning say, look, I want to talk to somebody in the technical team, right? Set the expectations that we're not going to be buying now. I think generally that's a good place to go, right? Most vendors will say yes, and yes, they do want to talk to you, because I think it's a mutual conversation, and you know, especially with the new emerging security companies, right? They want us just as much as we want them, right? So yeah.
You've worked closely alongside both CISOs and vendors, and you've in many cases put the two together.
Yeah.
What are the big issues? What's the big advice you give to vendors as to how they communicate to CISOs? What is it that's wrong about that?
I think the thing we've noticed is everybody wants to go for the CISO, right? What we have to appreciate, and we've seen this on many LinkedIn videos, right? The CISO's challenges are a lot bigger than us and our point solution when we call in on that day.
It's everything to the vendor, it's not everything to CISO. Right, absolutely.
And we all know that CISOs come in different flavors.
Of course.
Right? We've got the technical CISO, we've got the compliance and regulation-driven CISO, if you will. We've got the great one I read the other day, the champagne CISO, right? So look, there's different types of CISOs. I think when we call into these guys and when we speak to these guys, we have to appreciate their time is short. They get called upon 1 billion times a day,
of course.
Right? So naturally, they retract because they've got to get on with their day job and they've got the strategy challenge to deliver on, right? So we'd have to just pull back there a little bit. In order to get in front of these guys, it's the traditional methods of, you know, I'm a big fan of networking. Get yourself, and which we've done actually over the last few years, is moved over to CISO networking events, but not selling to the guys and not just being involved in those circles, right? And there's actually a lot of now CISO communities opened up to vendors, not necessarily paid for. You can actually attend a CISO event and just not present a solution, just listen and understand where they're at and what their challenges are. Right? And that will give you a good insight actually into where their world's at and what their problems are and what their challenges are. That's a good place to start, rather than just the traditional, hey, let's get some airtime with you. I've got this amazing thing to talk to you. And by the way, it does work, right? It does work. You have a product or a solution or a service, you'll reach out to these guys and they will. Sometimes they'll just connect up and they'll say, come talk to us, right? I'm not going to go into the sort of the LinkedIn methods and all of that. But for us, certainly moving over to becoming more CISO aligned and going on that journey with them, at some point in that journey, there may be a potential requirement for your service or your technology, which is mapped aligned. And you know what? You're part of that journey. But traditionally, I don't know. I don't know if that works anymore.
It's 4,000 security vendors.
That's what we found, yes.
4,000 security vendors. I mean, that makes it incredibly difficult. I mean, you know, how many to try and there's so much overlap between these 4,000. How can you figure out where to start with all of that? I mean, that's a massive undertaking.
So, look, you can use a traditional consulting firm, like, you know, my company, Decipher Cyber Consulting. We've picked up and engaged with clients that are on that journey where they want to outsource or find a managed service provider, a security service provider. And actually, they don't know where to begin. So you can engage us, and because we are inside out, we know the industry from SIs to vendors. I myself come from a background in Gartner. So that helps, having that sort of agnostic view, if you will, to come on board and partner with your company to not sell you that technology, but to help you cut through the noise. Right? To help you.
Yeah, but I guess the problem is quite a lot of the consultancies, they aren't vendor agnostic. Quite a lot of them, quite a lot of channel partners have very only specific vendors they work with. And they're driven by, well, we've got to hit a sales target.
100%.
And that can't be healthy for delivering value to customers.
No, it's not. And actually, that's where I'm proud of what we do. If you go to DC Consulting right now, one of the main things I wanted to achieve was remaining technology agnostic. You have to be technology agnostic.
Right.
We don't have a value-added reseller methodology or model. We're not driven by a vendor offering us a rebate at the end of the year and all that good stuff that kind of goes on in that world. We have to remain agnostic in order to give the end user, our client, a really good reflection of the market.
Right.
Otherwise, I think there's something like 21,000 IT security resellers in Europe. So
Right.
you've got plenty to choose from.